So we will start.
Yeah, yes, madam. We can start.
Okay. A very good evening to all the members who have registered for the session. Myself, CA Rekha Umaship, Regional Council Member, SIRC, and the Chairperson of the Digital Accounting and Assurance Committee. I take immense pleasure in welcoming all for the session on cloud computing and digital transformation. So if you see, we had planned a set of sessions as a part of the committee activities in SIRC. So we had started with some workshops covering all the different stages of Excel, beginner level, intermediate, and the expert level. And also we had a workshop on Power BI and collections. Then we had moved on to the physical sessions. Physical sessions, we had a variety of topics from Web3, cyber security, digital transformation, and also digitization of internal audit. So now this week we have planned for virtual sessions, again, a plethora of topics, especially those which is a must-have topics for CAs. So today we have one such topic, especially seeing the relevance of this particular topic, we have included this. It is nothing but cloud computing. So if you see, there are a lot of startups, a lot of companies providing consulting services, and also e-commerce companies coming up. So very, very difficult for them to start a company, which basically because of the high capital or cost involved in that. So here comes our cloud computing, or we can say on demand, pay as per your demand. So it can be with respect to software, it can be with respect to application, it can be with respect to a storage. That is the most sought after thing these days. And you take any, maybe it could be a platform, software, application. So for all these, we have cloud service providers. Depending on the SLA, you will be getting the service. So seeing the benefits also, it will be like less of maintenance and anytime, anywhere accessibility. So the benefits are endless compared to the traditional way of storage or buying out the software. So today we have a very, very eminent speaker for the day. And I'm actually much privileged to introduce the speaker for the day, CA Karthik Ramachandran, sir. He's the director with the Risk Advisory Deloitte. And before, actually, when I was reading the profile of sir, I was actually amused by one particular phrase. And this is something that we have in common, sir. Sir is also an engineer turned chartered accountant. And he has close to 12 plus years of experience, and he has worked with clients across a range of industries, including banking, insurance, financial services, especially NBFCs, as well as housing finances, IT, ITES, manufacturing, healthcare, and especially on engagements, including application reviews, IT audits, SOC engagements, SOX testing, IT audits. And he has also managed the application reviews for leading banking and NBFCs during 2022. And his overall experience spans across areas like security reviews, SOS 1 and 2 testing, and XOS testing. And also he has a great experience in managing and working in delivering engagements in Canada and UK Deloitte offices. So I think nothing much more introduction is required for this speaker, who actually has a very greater grip on this particular topic. So without much ado, I welcome you, sir, to this particular session. The session is all yours.
Thank you. Thanks, Rekha, for giving such a great introduction about myself. So a very good evening to everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the entire, the panel for, giving me this opportunity to present and talk about this topic today. So cloud computing, again, it's a very, very vast topic, and it is something which, many of us still discuss about. Today we discuss something on cloud computing, and tomorrow something, goes ahead. So keeping pace with the cloud computing today's world is very difficult because of the advancements and the invention that happens, with various IT companies, or the people, the research that happens across the IT world. I think the reason why, if you see my the title, it's very different than what I would probably have in the other sessions, or what normally other speakers would have. I think that is the world where we are today. And if you're gonna go and to any session or any seminar, and you're going to happen to meet your colleague and then say that I'm still not on the cloud, the immediate reaction is, why are you not still on the cloud? So it becomes a point that we are, the days back when I would say that there's a social pressure that gets created. The similar way, there's also a pressure that gets created that all of us have to move on the cloud. Whether do we really see a benefit or we don't see a benefit, or is that going to give us a returns, for the investment that we have? So considering all of that, still there's a pressure that why we have not moved on the cloud, right? But certainly there's advantage of going to the cloud, which is what we're going to see today. Uh, and the important aspect of it is that, the major digital transformation, which we so-called, becomes a fancy word today, the digital transformation. Every company says the digital transformation, digital transformation. So what exactly we do on digital transformation, right? So predominantly, all of it, I would rather say 85 to 90% are revolving around the cloud infra, because you need a cloud infra for you to move to a digitalization world. Because what comes in a subset of the digitalization, it is related to the cloud environment. So hence, you will probably have to move towards that. Now, moving to the introduction, so just like any other digital transformation technology ecosystem, which we covered in the scope of the digital transformation, IoT, cloud computing is again an umbrella term which several technologies, components, approaches, and type of application increasing the multi-cloud reality. So, see, the main drivers for the cloud adoption still revolves on the traditional benefits like, capex to opex, advantages, and also in the context of the digital transformation, the other benefits and drivers are far more important and shape the future, the cloud priorities and deployment. So the cloud computing is not just a pillar of transformation; it also is in a transformation. That is where the whole of the discussion happens. Now people may say cloud computing, but cloud computing itself has a lot of changes within it. The way it used to operate a few years back compared to the cloud computing, the way it operates today, there's a lot of changes. There's a lot of changes in terms of how the resources are being spread, how the resources are being utilized. We again call something as pay on the go. So we're going to touch upon all of that. But what I would like to iterate is that cloud computing is not something it's already there. It is also evolving. Plus the digital transformation that gets developed on the cloud compute is a very interesting factor. So, so the key pillar for the digital transformation technology ecosystem, without a doubt, is the cloud computing, and it is the context that the future of the cloud needs to be seen, right? So hence, this becomes more and more important. Now, the impact of the cloud. So from the remote working to online classes, the cloud kitchens to the financial transactions, cloud computing is one technology that underpins all the digital business models. It is no exaggeration to say that cloud enables the business. For example, the cloud kitchen, which is like very good example that we can talk about. So nobody even would have thought about this cloud kitchen concept earlier. Now it's very fancy to say it's a cloud kitchen, but they look at the benefits that people are trying to receive from that, right? There's nothing like a cloud, there's nothing like kitchen on the cloud, but the terminology called a cloud, right? So that is the impact that it created among the entire population. That is the point where everybody wants to say cloud, whether how they want to perceive is different compared to business, but I think cloud has become more and more popular with everybody that we are dealing with the business or dealing with the small organization, etc. So the cloud computing gives organization the power to co-innovate with a cloud service provider and offers intelligent digital solutions that are accessible, adaptable, and agile. So I think this all of us will agree, but we'll have something more interesting that we can look at in the upcoming slides. The survey after survey has claimed that the cloud computing market continued to grow. As per a recent Gartner, the forecast, the total public cloud service segment has grown from $270 billion in 2020 to 332.3 billion in 2021. So you can see the shift in 1 year, but then there's also a lot of potential that as the SaaS companies is going to grow today in today's world.
So the voice is not clearly audible, sir.
Yeah, so can I switch on the video, please, if you don't mind?
Yes, so there's some echo, sir.
Is it echo, is it?
Yes, it is
Uh,
echoing.
Okay, just give me a minute. Let me put out my speaker so that let me see how it works. Just give me 1 minute.
Have you logged in through 2 devices? Kindly.
No,
Okay.
I'm not logged in. Yeah. Is it better now by any chance?
Yes, little better, sir. Compared to.
Yeah.
Just can you continue, sir? Maybe we can.
Yeah. So as the SaaS companies are going to probably grow, looking at the potential of the startup companies and the SaaS companies today that we have, there is going to be a lot of dependency on the cloud computing. The cloud computing market is also going to grow because the startup companies are predominantly looking at, for example, you talk about Spotify, you talk about many startup companies that are based on IoT devices, and they also have a larger potential that they're going to.
So
Uh,
still echo
sorry.
only.
Yes, sir. Sorry to interrupt. There is some echoing still going on.
I have no idea why is that so. eh, Okay, just give me 1 minute. Let me put out my earphones. Yeah. Now, is it any better?
It's better, sir.
Yeah, it is better, sir.
Great. Okay, great. So I was saying that the SaaS companies has a greater potential to grow. So as as the startup companies grow and the SaaS market also grows, there's going to be a lot of dependency on the cloud computing market as well. So that is where the interesting part of the dependency on the cloud computing, because many companies today they are trying to move towards the SaaS products, and they're doing a lot of invention around the products like the IoT device, AI, ML, the cognitive technology, like AI, ML, and also with a lot of RPA and bots getting created, there's also increasing dependency on the cloud area as well. So the rise of the cloud. So the COVID-19 has infused the urgency to transform the way business is conducted across the world. So it has accelerated the pace of digital transformation. The organizations to innovate faster or risk of losing eminence or even going out of the business. So I would rather still say the digital world, the word called digital transformation, actually, it took a lot of shape during the COVID-19, the COVID pandemic. I think all of us also will, agree with that, because they were pushed to get to a digital mode, or else, they're going to be out of the business. The cloud computing is one such technological marvel that has taken the world of business by storm. The modern day cloud computing is a result of multiple advances made in several underlying technology infrastructures such as hardware, software, networking, and storage. For the reason that the cloud computing, the way the services, rather the resources are being spread earlier, it was more to do with whether you use it or not. It was allocated to you. Then they came the point of the thought, like why we cannot make it only when it is required, right? So then they came more with the pay as you go services, so you can use the cloud resources only when you would require, or otherwise the resources will be allocated to the next available or next required, the person, or rather the agent. So likewise, there has been a lot of invention in terms of the resources allocation within the cloud computing, thereby the hardwares and the networking and the storage, all of it started, changing in a different way. So that is where I said the cloud computing is not in one terminology is already there. No, the cloud computing by itself is undergoing multiple transformations in order for it to advance further, and thereby the other technologies can also probably make use of it to probably have a very good output, right? So in the past two decades, the big tech companies have grown exponentially. Especially, I would say the last 3 to 4 years. I think there's a significant growth in the tech companies, especially related to the cloud or SaaS products or a PaaS product or IaaS, etc. And the startup companies related to it has seen an exponential growth. So the benefits of the cloud computing. So I want to touch upon it. I'm sure all of it, or some of it, people would be more aware of it. But still, for the benefit of this particular session, I want to touch upon these. So the unmatched, the accessibility, the appetite for the application. So there's no doubt that business appetite for application is on the rise, right? So every company wanted to, go migrate to this application or move to the other application. So the business users are dependent on the application because of the numerous benefits like efficient operations, lesser manual processes, and quicker ROI, the returns on the investments. So certain applications like Microsoft, Salesforce, Adobe, AWS, Google Workspace. So all of these are becoming an integral part of the organization. So tomorrow when I go to a client and I probably ask them, do you use, the OneDrive, right? So Microsoft 360, do you still use the OneDrive? I mean, if he's going to say no, the immediate thought process will come from my mind. Why don't you guys move to OneDrive, right? Because you can store all the data on the cloud, and thereby there is no need for you to have a physical laptop with a larger space. You can still purchase a laptop or rather desktop with a lesser space, and you can use the online, where you can store all of the data. So that's becomes the immediate thought because we feel a benefit of that. Thereby, it becomes an integral part in terms of many organizations, who wanted to use such products. Same goes with Adobe, right? So Adobe, I mean, you want to use a PDF editor on the cloud, you want to probably use them. So likewise, every company has its own advantage, which makes the organizations to probably make a better use of it, and thereby it also going to create a lot of efficiency in the way these the operations used to work, right? So the as per the research conducted in 20 rather I would say 18 19, the latest I have, average of single organization uses about 129 business applications. So not a very recent research, but enough to ascertain that the proliferation of the business applications in the today's world, right? So look at the number of applications that are being used by the users rather than by the companies. So and if this is going to be 2018, imagine in terms of today where we are, so number of applications, a number of data that we collect from the online, a number of data that we probably browse through in the online, and we have the web aggregator who collects all the data, structured or unstructured. We'll talk about it later, but I'm saying the amount of that data applications to which we look into these data or we access these data is going to be huge, right? Thereby there's unmatched accessibility, and then we look at enhanced security, the new age data bank. The reason why I have a caption called new age data bank is because we are talking about data. Where we all talk about data. So we talk about structured data, we talk about unstructured data. How do I access the data? And data becomes the whole fulcrum of the for many organizations today to get into to expose themselves to a larger risk, because the data includes privacy element, the data includes a lot of compliance requirement. So how do I probably other way is that I have a lot of data. So how do I make better use for my organization to reach larger heights? Or rather, how do I make use of these data to achieve more business? Or rather, how do I make more profit out of that? Right. So there's a lot of thought goes around it. So the organizations are new age data bank, the digital transformation projects like implementing robotic process automation for streaming manual tasks and building AI and ML models on existing data sets to prepare the intelligent systems are all based on the data. So security obviously becomes the most important attribute for the reason that when it comes to the digital transformation projects, the organization rely on the cloud for the data projects. They need to secure the challenging cloud environments. So some of the survey reports also throw some interesting insights about cloud security. Around 30% of the respondents admitted that they're extremely concerned about the security of the public cloud. Now, earlier, it's very interesting fact, for the participants, if they would have probably followed this cloud infra properly. So earlier, there was something called a public cloud and there was something called a private cloud. And then they had something called a hybrid cloud or a community cloud, right? So everybody were getting into the public cloud. So then what happened because of the multiple attacks happened because of the common configurations, whatever they used to get. The 33 respondents have admitted that they're extremely concerned about the secure the public cloud, right? And now they started moving towards a private cloud. Now that is a shift of the transformation from the cloud from a public to the private. Now, while this sounds like a cloud is not as secure as record for data critical projects, it is not entirely true. But the public cloud solutions are second to none other than the private cloud. So private cloud becomes more, to your point where you would like to secure it, put a stringent mechanisms, and then probably go about that. Now, looking at the cost efficient, so many CIOs continue to see lower return versus investment ratio for their digital transformation plans. So the modern IT departments typically operate with several technologies, application, mix of the in-house engineering teams, contract employees, and digital service providers. So they contribute to the increasing IT spending, right? So the worldwide IT spending is projected to be around 4.5 trillion in 2022, nearly an increase of 5.5% from 2021. So the cloud brings in this the pay as you go, right? The terminology called PAYG, that's called the pay as you go. So model with the ability to innovate and build new applications and systems that can be integrated with the current ecosystem in the days and the upcoming weeks. This property of the cloud computing offers a growing spending on the IT workforce and other initiatives as well, right? And then the software and IT teams can dramatically reduce the time of rolling out on the new products, therefore accelerating the time to the market. And we also want to touch upon the cloud elasticity. The cloud elasticity refers to the ability to scale up and shrink or scale up based on the requirements. So this includes CPU, includes the memory, and the storage requirements based on the fluctuating usage requirements. So the cloud cost is always an area for a concern, right? For the organizations, if not monitored, the cost can go out of hand. For example, I was part of another seminar where the Google, the practitioner came out. He was explaining about the various tools that they can use in the cloud. And same way, there was also a session on Azure as well. So those are really beautiful, tools for us to use. I mean, they had the tools for analytics, they had the tools for cybersecurity, they had the tools for monitoring the log part of it. But if you're going to if you're going to plug in all of these into your environment, I'm damn sure your cost is going to go significantly higher, right? So that is where the point comes in. The cost of the cloud can go really high. It is as simple as this, right? So you take a cloud, you get into a cloud, you settle down, and then the attacks happen, the requirement happen, and then everything goes out of the ship. So the cloud cost is not monitored and rather not managed appropriately, the cost can go significantly higher. That puts a lot of pressure on the CTOs or the CTOs or the head of the ITs or CFOs or the organization as of today. How do we manage cloud effectively? Then my costs don't go up. I invest less, but then I also have the very good returns on the investment. That becomes the key today for them to think through. That is why I think most of the companies are thinking through to see what they need to do. Also, they feel it's a wastage of time, right? And resources for India to attack the cloud. But if you want to purchase a cloud, and if it's not going to be put to a proper use, that becomes a great wastage, right? So what is the company going to achieve from that? So thereby, one does really have to manage the resources that you have taken in the cloud to see really is there a benefit what we invested versus what we're going to use it out. And then you talk about the automation possibility. So the cloud computing offers tremendous automation opportunities when compared to the old school approach of the on-premise servers. So there are a lot of startup companies, what they do, they give you a platform on the cloud. It's like a drop down, right? For assuming you want to purchase a workflow tool, or rather you want to design a workflow tool. So we had a beautiful client, which I cannot name for the various reasons, but so there was a beautiful tool that we're looking at, which was more like a drop down. For example, there were 6 to 7 workflow tools required. So there was one startup company who came out and say, see, I'm going to give you a platform. Now you can configure this, workflow tool on whatever you want. Like it's typical, like a flow chart, right? I drag a rectangle and then I drag a circle to connect it,
and then I drag a rhombus and make a decision. So similar way. So this particular tool was more like, dragging the various, the requirement, and then you can create multiple workflows that you, whatever that you want. So that is the automation possible today, right? So I mean, we can compare this with various other innovations that we can do on the cloud, right? So we can talk about AI, we can talk about ML, we should talk in detail, but I'm just touching upon it at the moment because you talk about the various data on the cloud, right? So how do I even read the data, right? That is where the machine learning comes into play. And then, okay, I have a data now, I can, have a classification of the data. So how do I make it to a big good use? Now, the good news is either you can generate the data, but then you will not be able to take any decision. So then comes the decision-making process. That is where, so what I'm trying to say with the cloud computing today, there's a lot of automation possible, which can probably replace some of the manual decisions that was being taken initially, and that puts, the management to a better, position on that. Now, what are the importance of the digital transformation that we're talking today? So the focus on the customer experience, right? So the use of analytics tools, assuming let's talk about take an example of the analytic tools today to build richer content experience and create a deeper connection with the audience via the websites and mobile. So I think all of us will agree we have the mobile watch, we take a lot of data. For example, I walk for 10,000 steps in a day. Or rather, if I'm not able to walk for 10,000 steps in next month, then there becomes an alert, right? So do you want to probably use this? You want to probably use this to ensure that you are fit. So the amount of data that's been collected in today's world, and then it goes out to the public space, and that has been used by, the various these startup companies to create an experience for the customer. One, we talk about the privacy part, but these data are also being used to create better customer experiences, right? That is where major startup companies are taking the edge. So they're saying, I need this data to create a customer experience, or else I will not be able to give them the better product, right? So second is we talk about reimagine the operations and development, right? So move from the physical data centers to a modern cloud platform to speed deployment time, boost stability, and get new products to market faster, right? So that's exactly what you want. So you want to probably market faster. So how do I reimagine my operation? Then I'll have the tab, I have the app within it, and then I click that, and then it comes to my the other through SMS. So there are a lot of technologies being put in the place today where I can access the data from the cloud, which would enable even the agent in the villages today, where he can go and get the KYC updated, where he can go and get the fingerprints done, right? Where the digital loans can get processed. So thereby the operations, the way it was done earlier to way today it is being dealt with. There's a lot of development in terms of how the cloud computing has created an environment for the digital transformation of the digital loans that was provided compared to the earlier versus what we are in today. And then we talk about the modernizing the core technology. So the reinvent the optimized internal service delivery and introduce a new digital capabilities by migrating applications to the virtual machine instance on a private cloud. And then we talk about the improved internal collaboration. So there are a lot of collaborating tools like the video conferencing to unlock the shared creativity and the productivity of the employees, and also they're talking about the various meta, right? The virtual experiences. We also talk about virtual reality, right? How we're gonna how the way we watch the movies, etc. So look at the the power of the cloud computing that we have in today, and then we also empower the decision making, right? So as I said an example before, now assuming I have a lot of raw materials today, and then the raw material prices has an increase because of various factors, because of Russia and Ukraine war. Now, I have a historical data that tells me that, okay, the raw material price of the previous age, probably 10 years before, was in a similar situation. So should I increase the price or will that settle down, right? That is where the tools like AI comes into play, or ML also comes into play. That will give you a decision-making process, for the management or the organization basis the data, whatever that we have in the cloud. So likewise, the decision making is being empowered through these cloud computing and the digital transformation. That I mean, it doesn't mean that we don't know what decision to be taken, but it connects with the data, right? It connects with the data, the historical data, and then it gives us a realistic picture of what happened in the past, and that puts us in a better position, which can enable us to take a right decision. So I'm not saying that the AI will take a decision on behalf of the human. No, it's not the way, but then it's also giving inputs that we can, which will probably enable the us to make a better decision making process. So let's look into the digital transformation using the cloud. So the machine learning and artificial intelligence have impacts on the many industries, right? So to talk about that, right? So in the today's world, right? So the popularity of the AI has finally coincided with the expansion of the cloud computing. So using AI in the cloud can improve cloud performance and efficiency while driving the digital transformation in the enterprises. So AI capabilities of the cloud computing are crucial to be making the business operations more efficient, strategic, and insight driven, while also providing additional flexibility, agility on the cloud cost. Now, let's talk about, before I go into the slide, just giving examples to you. Now, undoubtedly, the AI and the cloud computing have improved countless lives. For everyday people use digital assistants like Siri, right? Google Home, Alexa, and allowing for an easy spoken command that can purchase an item, adjust a smart home temperature, or play a music on a connected speaker, among many other functions are there. So look at the amount of the AI and the cloud computing integration that happens in today's world. The technical aspect and the connectivity of this function are one of which many users are unaware, right? So I mean, I wouldn't know until a few years back that my Google Home at home has an AI feature within that, which is enabling me to get all of the whatever I want. So many do not know that the intuitive experience are made possible by a personalized blend of two technology domains, which is artificial intelligence and cloud computing. Now you may ask, Karthik, why not machine learning? Machine learning is definitely an arm to the AI, which helps you to probably read that particular data and then helps you to structure the data, and then which helps the AI put some intelligence thought on it and let you know what that user wants. So the AI and ML is impacting a lot of industries by collecting a lot of data and giving some information that can be used for the future decision-making process. So below are some reasons why AI and ML hold the future of the industries, right? So AI and ML are driving an era of automation that holds important benefits for the global industry, like increased productivity. So AI and ML brings in the speed as companies have started relying on the technologies to optimize their internal business operations. And AI and ML boost creativity and innovation by automating tasks so that employees only focus on the essential part. So AI and ML can also handle and analyze enormous data in an unbiased manner. Right? Sorry for the R getting missed out there, but it's unbiased manner. Now, I would like to emphasize on the last point called unbiased manner, right? So how do we say that AI is unbiased, right? By the rules that we create? Yeah, could be. But there are certain challenges in today's world that AI becomes a bit biased, right? There's also a theory that are being attached to it that AI becomes biased, and thereby the business is also biased, and they're targeting a specific segment in the country for them to benefit better benefits out of that. So keeping the AI unbiased is very important because a lot of regulatory are coming behind in terms of how do you use the data that you collect from the public without having a proper knowledge. So this data that we collect, which is being used by the ML and AI, is of the major concerns. We're going to quickly look into that in the upcoming slides in terms of how do we handle all of this as well. So the industries that are being impacted by AL, by AL and ML in today's world. I mean, there are many. I don't want to. If there are people from the other industry, I don't want them to disappoint them. But these are some of the top industry that basis my reading and research that I got to know. the retail has been augmented hugely by the AI and ML as it has become hugely dependent on them. It has made it possible for the companies to determine the need and the demand for the product before the product is released so that they can avoid a potential risk and losses which may occur after the release of the product. So using these techniques, companies can also roughly predict the performance of their product before it is launched. So assuming that, for example, I would either put a product that I'm going to launch in the Twitter. Now I can see what is the sentiment of the people on the Twitter. If it's going to be a negative sentiment, so there's something called the natural language processing, which will probably collect all of this data, and through the AI, I will be able to understand what is there a negative trend or is it a positive trend, right? So basis that, I will be able to understand and what should be my business strategy. That comes under the retail segment. So using these techniques, company can also roughly predict the performance of their product before it is launched. The involvement of AI and ML techniques in the retail sector has not really allowed the companies to save money, but also earn a huge profits by customizing the search results and the recommendations for the user, and also the business strategy on the products, whatever that they want to probably change, or what is that they need to do, right, with that. Now, looking at the finance, very, very interesting sector. A lot of potential on the AI. I would say, thanks to the digital transformation on the lending process, there's a lot of AI and ML has been used, and also in terms of RPA that has been put to use. So there's a lot of cognitive technologies on the finance sector has been used today. So AI and ML offers accurate solutions for the shared data so that can increase the efficiency and safety of the financial systems. I'm so sorry. I think I went back. Yeah, I think now I went up. So AI and ML also play a significant role in the advisory services or the financial advice services, as they're considered unparalleled in the field of decision making. Now, assuming that you want to probably buy a stock or hold a stock or sell a stock. I hope all of you have seen a lot of ads come into play, right? That talks about AI-based algorithm, AI-based research. So what is it AI is all about? And again, this also talks about the investment decision can happen based on the historical data. Plus, when I'm talking about the KYC that we collect, right? So based on the economic profile, the algorithm makes a decision whether the person can be probably provided with a loan or not. So how do you make a decision? The data, right? Where the data comes from, the web aggregator. Where the web aggregator says from the data that's been collected across all the people, and ML decodes the data and makes it a more readable form, which has been used by the various rules to run, and then makes a decision around that. So not only that, so a lot of such decisions, the AI and ML have been put into use in the financial segment, in terms of the product, what they wanted to launch, etc. And moving on to the healthcare, no doubt about it. So I think there's something called pacemaker that I understand. So they're going to put a chip on your heart, and then you can monitor your heart health 24/7, right? What is that? It's again, you're going to have a chip inside. The data gets transferred. Not only that, there's also a point that basis your activity, a lot of data gets collected, right? And the basis that they're going to predict what disease that you may get in the future. So likewise, in the healthcare industry today, the data becomes, the way bigger, the fuel for running the healthcare industry today. The reason is that the amount of data gets collected immediately. If I'm going to probably say, I'm going to capture that, I have a blood pressure for a 1 month's time. Immediately, I'm going to get an ad to say that, do you want to take this capsule so that, you will have the blood pressure will be under control. And how does it happen? It's again a healthcare industry where the people are probably connected, and thereby somebody is trying to sell you something by looking into your data, right? So AI and ML ensures proper healthcare is provided to every individual, and there are no issues prevalent in the managing the patients and their data. AI and ML has a lot of scope in medical science, as it helps to improve diagnostic method, also helps in detecting the disease quite accurately, which sometimes may be overlooked by doctors. So AI and ML has many benefits in healthcare that can assist doctors in many possible areas. For example, AI and ML can aid doctors to detect if a person is suffering from a particular disease. what are the affected areas, and what is the degree of severity of the diseases, leaving the doctors to focus on the main part of the problem and saving them a lot of time. So which gives them the more time in hand to treat the other patients. Now, similarly, if you look at the media and entertainment, so AI and ML, I don't think I need to talk more about it. We have Netflix today, we have Amazon Prime today, we have Spotify today. All of it has, the AI, the AI essence into it, and some of it also use the blockchain as well. But let's talk more on the AI ML as well today. So AI ML also allows companies to make their content more accessible to customers, as customers have become more powerful than ever before due to the rapid digitalization. The digital media is not just an additional distribution platform, but has emerged as a core revenue generator. So truthfully, if industry wishes to sustain and grow, we have to face severe competition, and the AI becomes more helpful for them to understand the customer taste and customer requirement. Accordingly, the contents can be tailored, and then they could also look at the usage pattern through a social media behavior, and basis that they can make a predictive analysis for better segmentation and targeting. So this predictive analysis also facilitates the right viewing content based on the audience preferences and identifies the best content with the maximum earning potential. So likewise, this becomes more and more important. Talking on the transportation industry, AI and ML has also been continuously aiming to reduce cost and generate more sales by delivering products with a much shorter lead time. The transportation companies uses AI and ML techniques to detect a real-time traffic detection and aid in optimizing the routes, thus providing the faster traffic navigation. Let's talk about the Google Maps. Right? Let's talk about the Google Map. Right? It has a AI also built within that tells you go in this, probably you'll have lesser of 5 minutes. To take this road is going to be faster of 5 minutes. So likewise, the Google Map also has an AI built within that. So this proves to be profitable for both the customers and the companies. Auto prediction of the path of cyclists and pedestrians also aids in reducing injuries and traffic accidents. So the traffic information also allows a significant reduction in the emission levels as well. So likewise, this transportation industry also is nowadays using a lot of AI and ML, and thereby trying to give a better experience to the customers. A quick look on the journey to the cloud computing. So while in the mainframe days, those highly coupled and brittle systems was more focused on trying to understand the large volume of data, the large transactions. In those days, the mainframe computer was used to decode and make the user to understand in a better way. And then we had virtualization, increased operational and cost effectiveness, and a better resource utilization. And then we had distributed decoupled technology, where the two systems which doesn't talk to each other, but they both work on the same objective, right? So more efficient software, faster go to market. And then we had a cloud computing, distributed technology at scale, lower capex, more opex. And then we added advanced analytics like ML and AI to increase such tech intensity and the startup revolution, right? Startup revolution, we call as unicorn. There's nothing but any company which touches $1 billion, they are called as a unicorn. So there's a startup revolution that's going on, and to see how best they can make a greater impact for the people today. So the digital transformation using cloud. So digital transformation cloud became the catchphrase to denote organization desire for using the innovations and creating their own space. So various companies embarked on a multi-year journey to bring on the digital transformation. For instance, banks are increasingly realizing that they can and need to own the technology and become more digital. For example, if the banks are going to outsource, let's say the fintech companies, right? Now that because of the digital lending happens today, now whatever that fintech does it, the banks or the NBFCs are supposed to have control on what they do. So that makes a bank to start thinking whether can we develop our own technology for certain processes, and whether we can probably make a better security controls around that. So that probably makes the bank to push to have their own technology. Digital first banks have been launched that use the technology to open contactless banking channels highlighting the redundancy of the traditional branch banking models. So today, if I go to ICICI ATM, I can probably try to deposit and I can do other banking related activities as well. So I have a mobile app in my phone. I can probably do most of things what I want to do in the today's world. So likewise, they're also trying to see what more they can digitalize in terms of services that they offer to the customers. And then companies across the industry use cloud to eliminate expense incurred on setting up physical IT infrastructure in-house as well as gain limitless scale, elasticity, resilience, and business continuity, right? So thereby they're also trying to use cloud to eliminate the expense incurred on these areas. Now people may talk about Karthik, what if the BCP to be achieved? Should I do a separate BCP? For better clarity, for the cloud area, the data will be available, right? But then the application that is being installed on the cloud, that also requires to undergo a BCP test, right? Which many of us, we forget to understand that just because an application sits on the cloud doesn't mean that, the report whatever your cloud cloud service provider is going to provide you will cover that as well. It is not the case. Cloud the cloud, the business continuity or the disaster is different compared to the application what you're looking at. If the third party will does it for both, it's really good. Or else you have to have a better clarity that he covers both the angles as well. Okay, but yeah, rather than before moving to the cloud, the amount of expense that we had on these have been significantly higher. But now because of moving to the cloud, these expenses are going to be coming down really well. So computing has changed and the evidence is overwhelming. For example, smartphones of today, would have more compute and storage power than what we used to have on servers on the yesterday. Now, yeah, because reason that we're going to connect the mobile to the cloud. For example, I have an Apple phone. I connect to the Apple cloud, and every day I used to pay about 75 to $100 for me to get more cloud storage. So Gmail started with the same concept. So I think it may be less today, but probably 15 years down the line, it is also going to be very costly for us. But touchwood, we'll have some other inventions that will come on our way. There'll be other alternatives that we all can switch towards. So digital transformation using cloud, ML, and AI. New generation ML and AI applications have become more mainstream. For example, we have a lot of applications that we are looking at. Even the many organizations are looking at AI-based applications to make decision process. So they are becoming they are being used to run routine business operations, ranging from detecting the real-time fraud, checking the credit worthiness, and design the shelf spaces, the retail shops. I think even the transport industry also, right? While the logistic and transportation industry, the AI is being used to say whether is there any space left or not left. That is the amount of AI and ML is being used in India today. But I would really appreciate our Indian country to the extent of the adaptability on the AI and ML. It was not that great earlier, but in the recent past, the adoption of AI and ML across the industries have significantly gone higher. The changing scenario has led the organizations to quickly build the digital assets and expand their use. I don't know how many of you have seen that recent, the article on the newspaper, the DigiLocker has been, the government of India is trying to see, there are 7 countries, I believe, which wants to use a digital locker that we use today for the authentication to our Aadhaar card, and not only Aadhaar card, for all the other related, identities, right? For example, your school certificates, driving license, etc. So, if you have a DigiLocker account set up, I think automatically it can help you with all of that to get authenticated. There are 7 countries which is trying to take our model. That's again a very good use in terms of technology. Similar to UPI success, I think DigiLocker is also probably reaching to that phase. Organizations are incurring capex and opex to keep pace in digital transformation. Reports from the Gartner, Forrester, and others assert that the digitalization, AI, and ML will lead to tech transformation agenda, necessitating it for companies to invest, if not already done, in building up a cloud capabilities in 2021 and beyond. There's a lot of survey that comes out and tells what are the benefits that the companies will achieve if you move towards the cloud computing and also to the digital transformation thereafter. So cloud is no longer merely a technology upgrade. That's exactly what people had a myth earlier. Not a myth, that was true. But today's world, it has become more like a myth. Mainly large IT service providers and other companies using technology in-house or through subsidiaries and capitals or outsourced vendor partner arrangements are recognizing the cloud's immense influence on their business model. So the moment you go to a client, when you talk about a ERP, the second thing you would say is that, I mean, they started setting to say it's a cloud-based technology, right? They say we are a cloud-based technology. So immediate thought for the people is that if they're going to be in the cloud, a lot of efficiency, that application will be our application is available and we can use with the data, we can put a lot of tools, we can digitalize it. That is what the cloud created an environment in today's world for many organizations, CXO groups. The moment you say that you are on the cloud and look at the amount of thought that gets into them, and they believed it because they've seen the benefits in some other companies or the experiences. That is what they're trying to bring onto the table as well. So old and new conglomerates to ride on the cloud. In the past decade, we have witnessed a massive influence of big techs on industrial and world GDP. Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google have been the major wealth creators for the investors. So big companies even have trillion-dollar valuations, although quantifying the exact impact of these companies on the world economy is difficult. We have ChatGPT that's going on in the last few months. Let's see, where it ends up at. So in October 2020, in the middle of the ongoing pandemic, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Alphabet had each crossed the threshold of $1 trillion market capitalization. Just imagine in the pandemic I'm talking about. And today I can see a lot of layoffs happening, but look at the market that they were able to capture in the 2020. Some of these companies were not present as early as 25, 30 years ago, and it have become a epitome of digital revolution. Therefore, they are called as digital natives. So that tells you how much of digitalization that people are looking at. It's not about digitalization, it's about end product, that you want to probably, use it. So, and the old giants such as Microsoft and IBM were also evolving and adapting to maintain their leadership in the space of technology with cloud as a fulcrum. Digital natives' growth is spurred by their ability to use their in-depth technological expertise to solve the existing problems in the new ways and forge a new business model almost on the fly. This phenomenon has given rise to another coinage of century, the startups and unicorns. So what is unicorn? I think many of you would know that unicorn is nothing but as long as startups in the ratio of $1 billion. That's what I understand. They've been called as unicorns. But the whole point is that the amount of digitalization that many startup companies are trying to create a product that can be used by these companies, or rather by the consumers or by the the common man, and that is what is driving these businesses survive in today's world. But in order for them to survive, they need data, they need a platform where they can store all the data or collect all the data, and which becomes again AI and ML, and not only these two, but a lot of other technologies too that plays a big role in the digital transformation that enables many businesses to do a lot of stuff, and then bring a better consumer experiences that also creates a profit. Now, barriers to the cloud adoption. Now, honestly, if you ask me, are all the companies being very successful in today's world with the cloud adoption? The answer is no, right? So there are certain barriers for the cloud adoption, which the companies been probably thinking twice or thrice before they move to that. So let's look at few of them. So integrating the cloud platform used within an organization. So this process requires overcoming issues related to the network connectivity, security, authorization, and authentication, and operations and managements. The failure to resolve these issues may lead to a running parallel IT operation for the cloud-based and legacy platforms, posing the challenges to overall adoption of the cloud system. Now, let me decode this in a better way. So assuming I'm a company, I want to invest very less, but I want to go to a cloud. So what happens is I go and pick up a very, very small third-party firm. Now, I don't do a proper due diligence on them, whether do they have a skill set, do they have experiences. I don't do those due diligence, but I just want to go to a club and I want a small third party who was probably cheaper for me to get the job done, which is means that integrating both applications or migrating the data on the cloud, anything for that matter. So they come over and they do a job half baked and then they go off. And what happens is when you come to a regulatory reporting, right? Not even one single report that you can generate from the system which is stored in the cloud can probably give right, accurate data. The reason is the cloud is a great source, right? But you're more focused on how to cut down the cost. But your thought is not about making a better usage of the cloud. So thereby what happens is that, right? So thereby what happens is whatever that you are using technology, because you don't probably have a right resources who can help you to implement or fix that, the companies are not able to get that particular the benefits from the cloud, right? That is where the major concern or rather the issue that many companies are facing today. When I used to go and do a lot of reviews on the application migration on the cloud or application reviews, what I've seen is the basic interface also has not been appropriately configured, right? The application will not be installed appropriately. The reports are not being coded properly. So thereby, there's no point blaming the cloud. The cloud is a good platform. I think it's more to do with how do you get your resources right to fix it properly or implement properly, and thereby get a better benefits from the cloud migration. The second aspect is the data security and the privacy. So the public cloud environments requires data to be stored on a shared infrastructure managed by cloud service provider, representing a fundamental shift from the traditional IT practices. Though the client IT team have access to and control of public cloud usage, the fear of being incapable of taking the requisite steps in case of a cyber attack leads to some resistance in these teams towards cloud adoption. This is a classic example in terms of many organizations today. They learn, in terms of the cloud, public or a private cloud. The public earlier, everybody wants to go to public because of a lot of cost on the private part, but then there was already an inherent limitations or inherent rules that was looking at, right? Something goes wrong with your cloud, you won't even know which data has been impacted, and then you go back and look into your data and rest assured that your data has not been impacted. But the amount of the ambiguity in terms of the public cloud usage and the security controls around that has been really increased in many organizations, and they're coming back and asking what should I do in order for me to protect the cloud and the data that is being stored on the public cloud. Then we have the multi-tenancy. It also hinders the cloud adoption as a cloud service provider. The cloud service provider uses it to optimize the server workloads, reduce the cost by sharing the workload across multiple environments. The potential security threat of the site channeling. The attacker gets information through a shared tenants node can sway a client to decide against adopting the cloud. That exactly is right. But then what happens is, while there are multiple tenancies, the resources are being accordingly, been allocated. So it doesn't become point that if one gets impacted, you may also get impacted. No, it is not that way. So the resources are being appropriately allocated and segregated. Thereby, the client will probably monitor it on a better periodicity to ensure that the resources are being taken care, the cloud setup is being taken care, the data is also being taken care appropriately. So compliance and the regulatory risk, moving to a public cloud platform requires giving some level of compliance controls to a cloud service provider. So many organizations find it a challenging situation on the cloud service provider do not negotiate their standard terms and conditions. The different kinds of clients use public cloud and environment, and providers do not customize services to meet the unique or a specialized requirement. The reason is that while the data goes into the cloud, right, there are a lot of compliance requirement in terms of whether the data is being encrypted, if the data is being masked, now what is the encryption bit that you have chosen, right? And then whether the cloud, the data is being classified or not. So likewise, there are a lot of regulatory requirement that happens on the configuration of the cloud by itself. On the other hand, you have a data stored in the cloud, Then we talk about the data privacy, the data security, and who logs into the data. Okay, on the other hand, if somebody logs into the cloud, is there an audit trail that is available to ensure that all the activity is being captured or is being recorded? So likewise, the compliance and the regulatory requirements really pushing to put a lot of controls around the cloud environment. It has been increasingly a lot compared to what it was few years back. Maybe for two reasons that I think that it is now the people have started understanding what is cloud and what are the risks in it, and they're also learning on the go. So thereby, I think as the shift goes, there will be a lot more such compliance requirement that may come up from the respective regulatory authorities. So barriers to the cloud adoption. So the vendor lock-in period. So entering into a contract with the LSP poses various challenges, such as financial penalties for early termination of a contract and no flexibility to negotiate prices if commercial costs change through the contract period, and migrate to another CSP offering more attractive services. The challenges have played a significant role in the discouraging the firms for adopting the cloud. In addition, lack of coordinated cloud standards across the cloud service provider has made it difficult for the firms to move from workload between the CSP and or the private clouds. The reason is that there's a lot of the companies that get into a contract with the cloud service providers. So what happens is, while we go to a pitch with a client, they say that this is what we do, this is what we do, this is what we do. Assuming there are two scenarios, right? The scenario number one, so the cloud service provider knows your data or the voluminous of the transactions, and then they build a solution to say that, why don't you guys take this? This is going to help you to get a better report out of that. So there's a cyber attack, again, a solution comes into play. So the point is, if you want to move to some other cloud service provider for a better attractive services, there's always going to be a challenge because of the content that already we have with them, or also dependency. It's not about the content, I would say, also on the dependency factor with the cloud, and also the mindset, right? If I move from one to the other, I know for sure what I have to deal with the new third-party vendor. So like this, because they're completely dependent on the third party, because we have given everything to them, because my application is a SaaS application, it's installed on the cloud, all the data are on the cloud. So that like a particular handicap. So if you want to move from one to the other, there also builds some negative point of view that is it really good to move to other cloud or not. So until the company wants to take some really aggressive decision, I think many companies are still living with these issues that they have. Then the zero cost savings. Some organizations do not see any cost saving, and some even experience cost escalations, right? The increases could be because of the lack of understanding of the workload suitable for the cloud environment, and those requiring the high resources utilization. Several upstream and downstream integrations may not be ideal candidates for both cloud migration and can be heavy on the pocket. So forecasting the investments related to technology, for example, network redesign, and the identity and access management tool set, and the staff, those are the training to enable proper physical management of a hybrid IT environment. So for example, if I'm going to talk about my company is probably trying to, let's talk the recent example, digital lending process. So there are companies, where they started creating their own rule engine, which would analyze and take a decision whether a loan can be rendered or not. Earlier, there are a lot of apps that we have in the Play Store, like Navi, CreditBee, the many apps that we have today. So they used to have a rule engine which will analyze the economic profile and decide is a loan can be provided or not provided. Now, many of the NBFCs today, they started creating their own technology, forecasting what they want to do, the business way they want to enter into. It started predicting whether is it good or really worth to provide a loan for this particular customer or not. Adequate monitoring of cloud service usage that can significantly increase the cost built on a pay-per usage basis. So Adobe has been a great example for this. From the earlier version of having the paying one time, etc. Now they've come up with pay as you go. You want to use a particular tool, you can use it and they can revoke it whenever you want. typically they say, right, you register your card within 7 days. In case you don't want it, you can probably cancel it, and there will be a zero charges. That is the amount of the technology or a tool that they have created on the cloud today, which helps these businesses to do a lot of things in a better way. So rising above the clouds of the challenges, let's see some of the challenges rising above the cloud. So the formulating the cloud adoption and purchasing the guidelines, right? So put in a place a guiding principle as a part of the enterprise-wide guideline for purchasing and adopting the cloud solution. So I think let's consider operational performance metrics, not only features and functionality in software evaluation and selection decisions as well. So again, so there was one typical crunch that we had where they were asking us, which part of cloud they should probably migrate to. So with the cloud, we have multiple variants. So they wanted us to help them out in terms of, asking us which cloud configuration or which cloud should they probably, look for. So the reason is it's not easier from a cloud computing perspective, for us to decide how do you want to go about it and what is it that will fit into your business. Then it becomes really important that we understand the background of our business, the process that we are looking into it, basis which we can decide whether the cloud computing is required and how do we go about that. And then we have something called modernizing the operating models and enterprise practices. So invest in upgrading existing enterprise IT architecture and tools such as cloud service expense management to identify and right service the over-provisioned resources, and then take advantage of pricing changes and identify the ways to cost effectively use it, and release the IT resources to reduce the cloud expenses. Then we talk about encryption and shielding. So put in the place a robust security provision such as encryption, keys rotation, and tokenization. That becomes the challenges. Procure multi-factor authentication and digital certification to safeguard the data in the cloud. Again, becomes a challenge. Deploy web application firewalls, preventing the cross-scripting or SQL injection attacks, and special shield services, preventing the DDoS attack. And then align security architecture with CFP architecture constraints. Train staff on the cloud security provision and foster a culture of constant vigilance. So these are some of the challenges that we have. And then we talk about the cloud vendor landscape evaluation, establish fundamental guidelines around the compliance and the regulatory requirements for the cloud services that will serve as a baseline for vendor evaluation. Look for baseline compliance requirements such as user identity, access management, data protection, incident response, and the data residency requirements while evaluating the cloud vendors. These are some of the things that you can also look at, which will help you to achieve this. But this has become some of the objectives and challenges in terms of how do I choose the right cloud vendor, right? How do I evaluate them? That becomes a major point because everybody is going to come back and tell you the similar story. It becomes very difficult for management to identify who is right and who is not right. So the mature vendor management capabilities, the organizations find it critical to approach the cloud service contracts as an ongoing set of relationship. Consistent monitoring of the cloud market is imperative for various firms. Now we talk about the agnostic services and containerization. Now build these services to reduce dependency on a single vendor. Use the containerization technology to increase the workload profitability across the cloud environment. So what does this mean? It all talks about how do we reduce our dependence on a single vendor, which means that it could be a SaaS platform, could be another client, cloud could be another client. Like this, we'll have to identify the various vendors who can support on the complete process. And then we also need to increase the workload profitability across the cloud environment. So that is why I said earlier, now the cloud vendor They come up with to say that you segregate the services only as when you require. Otherwise, we know probably we can segregate the resources across the other organization or other users or other agents who would require these. And then we talk about the business case. So invest in creating the business cases and justifying the workload migration to cloud environment to migrate the risk related to the cost management. Revisit the business case after the transition to validate its realization. Then we talk about the cloud suitability analysis, assess workloads in terms of the functional and technical fitment. For example, we also assess it based on the availability requirements and hardware dependence, etc. And then we also talk about for the cloud migration, the assessment can yield results related to the rationalization of the application portfolio, thereby reducing the application cost. For example, you want to talk about a specific application that can also would require to go on the cloud. So we'll have to understand, is it really required to move that application? For example, some of the parameter could be, is this a business related application or no? If it's going to be a business related application, then it's better that we probably move that application to the cloud, etc. Like this, we'll have to make a variable analysis to see what requires to go under the cloud, what is not required to go under the cloud. And then we talk about cloud governance. Very, very, very important aspect. So establish adequate governance mechanism that account for who uses the cloud services and how many services can be used and what approvals are required. So this also becomes very key because in terms of, if you want to put a proper governance mechanism in place, first of all, you need to understand, as I said in the earlier slide, whether the cloud cost has been in par. A second aspect is that how do we manage that there is no wastage of the cloud? And the third aspect is that how do we govern in terms of what your third party does on the cloud area? So many companies, once they move on the cloud, they'll be very happy that everything is being taken care of, but actually the case is not. Once you go on to the cloud, there's a lot more that you need to look into the compliance and regulatory aspect. And there's nowhere, a point that we can think that it's kind of fine. Right? So that's the cloud governance. So the cloud adoption, right? So how many of you would, let me pause here for a few seconds. Let me take the audience view. So what is your thought on the cloud adoption? Now, if you're part of any organization, can you probably, make your comment in terms of where is your cloud adoption today? Or is there anyone on the call who is still thinking to go to the cloud or not? Maybe let's open the chat box for a while. Can anyone unmute yourself and probably share your thoughts on some of the technologies that you guys are using? I gave 5 industry. So are there anyone on the call part of those industry and you want to share some of your AI experiences that you are aware of? Anyone? No comments from anyone?
Sir?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Sir?
I was asking any participants want to share any experience on the cloud.
So in the Q&A panel, they ask them if any query, you can send the question answer in the Q&A panel. Sir will answer, sir.
No, I'm not at the Q&A panel. I'm asking, I want to share their experiences on moving to the cloud, and have they used any AI or the ML? Have they heard about any industry, any interest experiences on the cloud adoption?
So any experience you can share in Q&A panel, or you can raise your hands.
Okay, so let's continue. Yeah, that's fine. So moving on the cloud adoption, the changes in the customer expectations. So the modern customers do not hesitate to throw their weight around and flaunt their power. So the organizations need to provide the choices to win the customer loyalty. So when customers do not have a choice, they have to probably, AI will come handy or this digital transformation will come handy. Particularly the organizations, they move on, often have just one bad experiences. Moreover, the customers' expectations are rapidly changing, fueling the growth of the cloud-oriented models. And then the targeted approach. So as I said earlier, using the AI and ML, we can have a targeted approach from a business point of view. So organizations need to offer more differentiated experiences to connect with and attract customers. They need to personalize the offers to suit customers' interest after analyzing the metadata, and then the rise of the citizens and developers, so creating the solution platform that allow the non-technological technology people in an organization to have a point of interface with the customers and become a new growth driver for the cloud services. Developers create new business applications and innovative platforms that have a simple user interface with a drag and drop utility to map the prospective customer journey. As I said, there's not only that, there are various drop-downs to kind of workflows also. And then we have Internet of Everything, data engineering and integration points with various devices are just exploding. And there's a need to differentiate and create a seamless experiences for customers, helping companies to generate a higher top line growth. And then we have something called changes in customer consumption behavior. The consumption story of the Indian customer is undergoing a transformation. So most startups now focus on the in our India, where e-commerce is driving the growth of the cloud. So however, the changing scenario is a result of the factors such as raising the disposable income of the households, altering the spending behavior. So these may impact our inflation. For example, we have a lot of the B2B, right? So buy now, pay later. So you go to Amazon, you want to buy a shirt or you want to buy a toy, you still have a pay later option. So that also spurs the spending that people do over and beyond what is their capacity. And the more and more demand goes, then the inflation will increase, and that will create an imbalance between the the demand and the supply, right? So that is where though these technologies are seamlessly helping the business to achieve a lot of potential, but there is also required to put certain things under a belt, because this may have some sort of ramifications from the economic standpoint of view. So in the Indian context, let us consider that cloud kitchen model adopted by Swiggy, Fasos, and others as an example of the business model innovation. So in a traditional franchises-oriented model, the location is important for a restaurant and rent-to-sales ratio is high. However, the cloud kitchen, leading to a significant drop in the rent-to-sales ratio, they can offer the other premium brands without worrying about the food fatigue from the customer. They also have a level of independency that allows the cloud kitchens to add the other brands and have the preferential pricing. Now, if you look out to the right, given below are some trends that we think allow for affecting the business model change. So for the platform effect, the value is created in the interaction, not in the transaction, because it all depends upon the experience that I probably get. Now, the digital shift is the value is created in the accessibility and the filters, right? So look at the shift from those two. And then the solution-driven shift. The value is created not in the product, but in the aspect that can be repeatable. Now, remove the middleman shift. Value is creating a transparency layer of communication between the buyer and the seller. And then wrap the speed shift, ensure that delivery is done at 10x or 100x speed of the conventional method. So look at in terms of what is the impact that these cloud computing and the digital transformation has brought in today. What? So many Indian companies are rethinking their model of distribution using technological specifically cloud. So I'm not sure how many of you guys really heard about the logistic innovation that the government of India is trying to bring in. Just to put in a few seconds. So earlier, assuming there's a truck that comes from Gurgaon to Chennai, the truck from Gurgaon to Chennai will come all the way, right? And then it will unload the goods here, and then the truck may get a load back, or it may not get any load back, right? So then, if not, it has to go empty all the way back to Delhi. Now, the reason is there are multiple such truck companies who are running, in this specific industry. So what happens is that now one is the delay of the goods that we receive, and second aspect is that it is the amount of money that the truck person gets is very less. So and now we may have airways, we may have the ship, the transport over the water, seaways, or we have the bus, we have the lorries, we have the trains. But despite that, the amount of time that it takes time for these goods to reach has become significantly higher and costlier. So now what government of India is trying to do is they're trying to create this hub model. For example, now there will be a hub in Bangalore. Now, let's say that the goods have to be delivered to Kerala, to Tamil Nadu, to Andhra and Telangana. Assuming there are various packages comes from Delhi, so the truck from the Delhi will collect all of these packages and it will deposit everything in the Bangalore hub. Now, same way, if somebody wants to courier something to Delhi, so what happens is that these companies again, they will courier it and they'll transport it, and all of it will come and sit in the hub. And then this particular thing will get transported back to Delhi. Now, as part of this, one is the truck transporter will have the up and down, he'll have some business. Second is that then the truck for the Chennai will go to Bangalore, will collect it, again it will come back. Right? Same way, Kerala will go to Bangalore, will cut and will come back. So what I'm trying to put forth is that, and then all over, on top of it, assuming I'm running a company and I want to transport a bike that was purchased by the customer in Delhi through an e-commerce platform. So what happens is that if I want to transport, I have an option like an Ola or an Uber app. Should I probably transport through airways? What is the cost? What is the time it will take? If I want to transport through the seaways, what is the cost? What is the time it will take? And if I want to transport to a road, could be the bus, could be the lorry, could be something else. What is the cost? What is the time it will take? So I have a range of options that I can choose to transport my bike from Chennai to Delhi. That is the revolutionary step that has been taken by the government of India. And just imagine the amount of data, the artificial intelligence, the machine learning, everything is going to come into play. That is the amount of adoption that our government is trying to do with a massive population that we have. If these such technologies can be put to a right use, we will be the greatest benefit that we can yield compared to other than China I'm talking about. So we'll be able to get the better benefits of these technologies. So that is one of the great examples. And then a fintech has built digital solutions for KYC verification, income and employment validation, repayment setup, and consent on the loan agreement. I think all of us are, some way or the other, we would have probably been exposed to the digital app for the digital lending process. So all of us would be aware in terms of how easy is getting a loan on the digital mode. And then a large section of customers will now be able to access credit much quicker from the comfort of their homes through an easy contactless process. As such, the erstwhile physical step in the lending process has now been built digitally. Now, I hardly see people coming home and doing the KYC process. Everything has become digital. Even the video recording is digital, where they ask us to show the pan on the camera, pan on the video, which is a replacement of the physical doorstep. And once that happens, immediately the loan gets dispersed. So likewise, there are the amount of transformation, as I said in the earlier slide, in the finance industry has been really to the greater heights. And there's also a concern because too much of digitalization requires a lot of lot of monitoring in terms of the regulatory and also from a security perspective. A lot of compliance is required. So there warrants quite a lot of monitoring on these applications, data collected, and then the operations around these applications, etc. And then we look at the digital stack as enabled providing unsecured loans within 3 to 5 hours from an earlier dispersal time of 3 to 7 days. A key feature of the FOWS platform enables us to provide customized lending solutions to consumer using a predictive algorithm model. I think this also we discussed earlier. So a quick summary of the overall session today. We are roughly a decade from when the cloud computing started, and in such a shorter time, this technology has become an inevitable part of every organization's growth strategy. It uncovers the challenges preventing the organizations from embracing the cloud services. From a technology and business perspective, we believe the future of the work skill sets required and the overall economic and human impact of technology will continue to evolve at an even faster pace than we see heretofore. So new age technologies like blockchain, IoT, quantum computing will usher in a new era of technology innovation. These technology are still nascent, but just as with innovations we have seen so far, we are sure to witness faster emergence of these technology from labs to the business battlegrounds, where the new age companies will take over the batter from their legacy counterparts. The time is ripe for the next inflection point, right? So that's it from my end. Any questions, I'm happy to answer. Any questions from anyone?
So on the Q&A panel, 2 questions are available, sir.
So one is, so sorry. Okay, one is that is sound echoing. Sorry for that.
In Q&A panel, there are 2 questions, sir. Have you answered?
Yeah, I'm just reading that. Yeah, so one is from Rakesh Jain, and one is from Jay Shukal. Which are the best cloud service providers for our CA member? There are a lot of, it depends on, madam. I mean, what exactly that you want to do. So if you want to use for a docs repository, I think you can sign up with Google, is quite cheaper. Or you want to use Azure, you can also go with that. I think Amazon is really good. They're giving a better configurations. It's like a la carte. You can choose what you want, and then you can probably accordingly go. So I would prefer the Amazon cloud services. Yeah, I think I've answered that. Any further questions? Okay, I think that's no questions. So back to you, sir. Yeah.
Any other questions, sir? Any other questions you are having? You can ask the sir. He will reply on it. So no any questions, sir.
Yeah, great. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for
thank you.
accepting our invitation. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.